We just got breaking news from the Fed that you need to hear if you're planning to buy a house or refinance in 2026. The Federal Reserve just concluded their January meeting and decided to hold rates steady at 3.5 to 3.75%, ending a streak of recent rate cuts. Jerome Powell basically said, with the economy looking stronger, with a 4.4% GDP and analysts expecting that to reach 5% by the end of next quarter, stabilizing labor market and inflation running a little bit high, cutting rates just doesn't make sense right now. For the second meeting in a row, Jerome Powell brought up a weakening housing market. He said consumer spending has been resilient and business fixed investment has continued to expand. In contrast, activity in the housing sector has remained weak. But their data is old. We know that mortgage rates are hovering at a 3-year low, meaning there's more applications for mortgages now than there's been in over a year. And even though we know that mortgage rates don't move one for one with the federal funds rate, we did see mortgage rates tick slightly higher after this press conference, which means mortgage rates could stay elevated for longer than people expected. So if you were expecting rates to magically crash, today was a good reminder why timing the market is risky. Bottom line is the Fed just told us rate cuts are not guaranteed and 2026 could look a lot different than what people think, even with Jay Powell getting replaced in May, because remember, it's not just Jerome Powell making the decision to cut rates or not, there's a whole committee. And if this information is helpful, make sure you subscribe to my page and share this post with someone who was hoping to see mortgage rates crash.
Over 1 year ago, under the radical left Democrats, we were a dead country. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. In fact, the United States economy is on pace to grow at double the rate that was projected by the IMF just last April. And with my growth and tariff policies, it should be much higher. I really believe we can be much higher than that. And this is all great news, and it's great for all nations. The USA is the economic engine on the planet. And when America booms, the entire world booms. It's been the history. When it goes bad, it goes bad. You all follow us down and you follow us up. And we're at a point that I don't believe we've ever been. I never thought we could do it this quickly. My biggest surprise is I thought it would take more than a year, maybe like a year and 1 month. But it's happened very quickly. This afternoon, I want to discuss how we've achieved this economic miracle, how we intend to raise living standards for our citizens to levels never seen before, and perhaps how you too and the places where you come from can do much better by following what we're doing.
You guys are not going to believe this. Fox News just did a big headline piece that red states are experiencing the lowest inflation rates. The message, the overriding message, is that the economy works better under Republican leadership. And all the right-wing pundits are running with this message. And I thought, I have got to research this. And I spent at least 30 minutes, and I could only find one thing, only one source for that message. And it's from the Council of Economic Advisors, aka Trump's White House, hand-fed to their news outlet, Fox News. And who oversees the council? It's Trump appointee Stephen Myron. Who's Stephen Myron besides a Trump sycophant? He is one of the authors of Trump's tariffs. Not only is he one of the authors, he wanted to rename Trump's tariffs to the Mar-a-Lago Accord. So I thought, surely you cannot make this claim about red states without there being data. Consumer Price Index data. This index is what determines inflation rates, and it's got to be out there by state. But nope, there is no Consumer Price Index data by state. He literally pulled it out of his arse. Literally. So I wanted to give you some other data about red states for 2025, going all the way through November of this year under Trump's leadership. Unemployment rates. The two highest states are Ohio and Louisiana. The states facing the highest healthcare cost increases are Georgia, 40% increase, Kansas, 40%, Texas, 39%, Mississippi, 39%, Nebraska, 36%. The states with the highest number of projected uninsured citizens when healthcare costs go up and they can't afford it? Florida, they're going to be adding another 1.5 million people to the uninsured list, an increase by 6%. Texas, an increase by 5%, or adding another 1.4 million people. Georgia, 4%, adding another 500,000 people. Louisiana, 7%. Alabama, 3% increase in people who cannot afford health insurance. Bottom four states in terms of number of new jobs created are Louisiana, Ohio, Mississippi, West Virginia. Stick around with me, people. I took time to research this. The 5 states that lead in bankruptcies for 2025: Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky. States leading in number of families in poverty. Number 1 is California. Number 2, Texas. Number 3, Florida. Number 4, New York. Number 5, Georgia. And then more red states after that. The states with the most hungry kids in 2025: Arkansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana. States with the lowest number of college graduates this year: West Virginia, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, in part because their public education is rock bottom in terms of preparing students to be able to get into college. And then, of course, when you have that many people living in poverty, these kids can't afford to go to college. States with the lowest per capita income in 2025: Mississippi, the average income is $30,000. West Virginia, $32,000. Arkansas, $33,000. Louisiana, $34,000. Alabama, $34,000. Oklahoma, $34,000. Now, the monthly incomes that are due to go up the most, what states are those when you include the increase in healthcare costs? Georgia, Texas, Florida, Mississippi, Nebraska, Kansas. This is projected for 2026. I wanted to add this. States with the highest suicide rates are Alaska, Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. The 10 top states in terms of happiness scales, only one Republican state cracked the top 10, and that was Utah. Top 3 states with the highest alcoholism rates are Montana, North Dakota, and Iowa. And I wanted to add this in here: the states with the highest teen pregnancies. This is important when you compare the average per income capita being low, highest number of those in poverty, highest number of hungry kids. Those with the highest teen pregnancies after the overturning of Roe v. Wade are Texas, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi. Yeah. Wow.
Okay, to answer your second part of your question, my insights into the new announcement. Really don't know anything about this guy. I'm just researching it this morning. He seems to be hyper focused on inflation and impacts of the Fed printing money, and that directly impacting inflation, which is good. He's one of the youngest to sit on the board for the Fed. Let's see what else to say about him here. He actually criticized the Fed's decision to lower the interest rates quickly after the financial crisis, and was the only one to do so. Let's see what else to say about him here. I mean, he was the youngest to sit on the board for the Fed at 35 years old. He seems to be politically motivated, and that piece worries me, right? Trump's looking for somebody that's going to bend the knee and do what he wants. And that's what he saw in Jerome Powell, honestly, when he nominated him. Jerome Powell actually did the right thing and didn't listen to the president and just artificially lowered the interest rate when the president said to. Now they're both pulling in the same direction. This Warsh guy, I don't know if he is just going to bend the knee. I really hope he doesn't and actually uses the data to control the monetary supply. In terms of its impact on crypto, crypto is driven by Bitcoin. And the 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 Fed's role in that will be to comply with laws that Congress sets. So I really don't think, he can have bullish statements all day long, but at the end of the day, if our currency doesn't transition to a digital currency, and we maintain the fiat dollar, there's really going to be no impact. But if Congress goes and moves towards a digital currency, it's going to give the Fed chair basically the same control, but he's going to be able to do it in different ways, right? Instead of inundating the market with treasuries, or buying
Next year is going to be a boom year. Look at this. The economy roared 0.3%. And that's just the U.S. economy. Dallas is a special place. What's happening next year, again, that most people haven't put all the pieces of the puzzle together, is we're going to have a red-hot economy. Because, first of all, Texas this year, they passed a massive tax cut.
Yesterday, you presented a bleak outlook for the city's budget with a $12 billion deficit, the same week that Wall Street's reporting really strong bonuses. Walk me through that math. How does Wall Street actually help, and where's the rest coming from?
So Wall Street's announcement is something that is very encouraging and frankly will be helpful in dealing with a $12 billion fiscal deficit. The reason that I can't point to Wall Street and say that the deficit will be taken care of is simply the sheer scale of this deficit. We're talking about something that is larger, frankly, than what the city even faced during the Great Recession. And that's why it's going to require an all-of-the-above approach. That's why we welcome this news. We also think the city's relationship with the state has to change. You know, the city sends about 54.5%. It makes up the gross revenue of the state, only receives 40.5% in return. And we also think that the city's relationship with its wealthiest residents, most profitable corporations, also has to change so that we can bring the city back to firm financial footing. You know, as the mayor, I am legally required to balance the budget of this fiscal year and the next. That is something we are fully going to do. In order to do so, we have to deal with these structural problems. I think there's no question that we are talking about a city's fiscal health also in the context of threatened cuts coming from the federal administration. Those are cuts that we're going to fight with every single tool in our toolbox. However, the $12 billion fiscal deficit, when it comes to the architects of that deficit, we're talking about the former mayor and the former governor. The reason for this is that the former mayor would under budget the costs of actual city services. We're talking about when it comes to access to shelter, or we're talking about cash assistance, sometimes even only budgeting half of the cost, or 60% of the cost. And then here we are seeing a deficit grow to a level we haven't seen before. And amidst all of that, adding close to $2 billion in new expenses. That's the kind of gross fiscal mismanagement that we're talking about.
So I would like you to consider something for a moment, because, a lot of people voted for Donald Trump because he's supposed to be this great businessman and America should be run like a business. So the question is, what kind of business is successful when half of the employees of the business hate the other half of the employees of the business? What kind of business is successful when the owner of the business constantly degrades and threatens and attacks all of the other businesses around the world that they do business with? What kind of business is successful when the management of the business lies to all of its employees every single day and they all know it? What kind of business is successful that constantly tries to find new ways to strip employees of said business of their benefits? Yeah, there's not one, because that's not a thing. Because America's not a business. It's a community. And until you figure that out, you're going to keep destroying it. Thanks.
Hey, just like we were telling you, don't panic about the economy. I know things didn't go well for a couple of months, but right now this thing is booming just like we predicted. Trump is going to win the midterms, and I'm going to tell you why right now. The Atlanta Fed today doubled the fourth quarter GDP estimate to 5.4% growth. That's amazing. The trade deficit plummeted, got cut in half because of the tariffs and because of the reciprocal trade deals. Our trade deficit got cut in half just this month. Unemployment, 4.4%, below expectations. Prices are going to start to come down as well. Oil at $1.69 in Oklahoma. That's going to continue to fall. Once this oil hits from Venezuela, these 50 million barrels, once we get it out there, oil's going to go over $50 a barrel. This is going to be continuous. This isn't a one-shot deal. As soon as that goes down, gas price is going to be $1.50. That's going to lower the cost of everything. Now, the things about this economy, all the pieces of the economy are now growing, which means that more money is going to go into the economy. The unemployment rate, 4.4%. We like it to be lower, but it's lower than expectations. We got the growth. It's coming. Consumer goods. This is an area that is going to get a big boost from the big, beautiful bill when the tax cuts hits, because people are going to get record refunds. They're going to start spending their money, investing, and they're going to do something with it. They're not putting it under a mattress. Okay. They're going to make the money work for them as prices are coming down. Inflation continues to come down. The Working Families Tax Cut Act, there's something in the order, get this, of $200 billion to individuals coming back in tax rebate checks and refunds this year alone. alone, disposable income is going to hit double digits. Savings is going to go up because a lot of people depleted their savings during the economic slowdown. Grocery prices are high. Their savings are depleted. We get the savings back. People are going to feel better when they've got some money in the bank. You know, factories are coming back on a tremendous scale. You got to be fired up about this Trump economy. We're only at the tip of the iceberg. Let me just tell you something. We get 5.5% growth this year. This economy is going to be the envy of the globe at 5.5%. Can't get it in the first quarter before you get in the fourth quarter. Got to put one foot in front of the other. This economy is booming. The jobs are going to be booming. Wages are going to go up. People are going to have more money in their pockets. The Trump economy in 2026 is going to be the fuel to the Republicans, as bad as they are, right? Keeping the midterms, President Trump leading the greatest economic turnaround now in the history of America. Hey, follow me on social media, because if you don't do it now more than ever, truth and clarity, that's what I give you every day. At JF Radio Show, I want to get your comments. We read them all. Make your comments here. Also, share this with your friends. We're going to have a great year, 2026. It's going to be a great year economically for all of us. Don't forget, Godzilla wins tomorrow morning, 9 to 11 a.m. You got some disposable income. I try to make you more money with NFL picks. 9 to 11, Godzilla wins across our network.
Somebody posted this on Facebook, and you've got to hear it. I wish I knew the author because I want to give them credit. All right, let's call this what it is. Perfectly timed economic judo. And Trump just ran face first into the mat. While Trump is over there banging his favorite broken toy, tariffs, like a toddler with a plastic hammer on a coffee table, the EU quietly did something grown-ups do. They signed a massive free trade deal with Mercosur that's been 20 plus years in the making. 20 years. That's patience. That's planning. That's not, I woke up angry and threatened half the planet on social media. And the timing? Chef's kiss. Trump rolls out his shiny new 10% tariffs, then threatens 25% tariffs like he's upping the ante at a poker table while everybody already knows he's bluffing. He's targeting EU countries because they dare to say, no, mate, you don't get to just muscle Greenland like it's a monopoly property. So what does Europe do? Do they panic? Do they tweet? Do they throw a tantrum? No. They say, cool, while you're busy with tariffs, we'll just lock in one of the biggest free trade zones on earth with South America. That's not reaction, that's strategy. This deal links Europe with Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, hundreds of millions of people, enormous agricultural supply, massive industrial demand, new markets, new leverage, new options. The exact thing Trump hates most because it proves a horrifying truth. The world does not need to revolve around the United States, especially with Trump in charge. This is what tariff fatigue looks like in real life. Countries don't scream back, they don't beg, they don't posture. They quietly build alternatives and leave you shouting into the void. Trump thinks tariffs are power. They're not. They're attacks on your own people and an invitation for everyone else to reroute around you. And Europe just rerouted in spectacular fashion. And let's be very clear, this isn't abstract. This deal weakens Trump's leverage directly. When you've got diversified trade, when you've got access to food, energy, and manufacturing inputs from another hemisphere, suddenly some loud orange bloke threatening tariffs sounds a lot less scary. This is the EU saying, you don't scare us, you don't corner us, and you definitely don't bully us into handing Greenland over like it's a souvenir fridge magnet. Trump's entire negotiating style is based on one assumption, that everyone needs him more than he needs them. This deal punches that assumption straight in the throat. While he's playing checkers with tariffs, Europe's playing long-term chess with supply chains. While he's yelling, America first, Europe's saying, fine, we'll trade elsewhere. And that's the real blow here. Not the headlines, not the symbolism. The fact that when those 10% and 25% tariffs land, Europe's going to feel them a lot less than Trump thinks. And that's impeccable timing. That's what impeccable timing looks like. No shouting, no theatrics, just a quiet, coordinated move that leaves the bully swinging at air. Trump wanted to show strength. Europe just showed competence. And competence always wins in the end. There you go.
The Federal Reserve met this week and did exactly what we all expected. They kept rates the same. And despite heavy pressure from President Trump to cut rates because that generally spurs economic activity because borrowing becomes cheaper, they didn't. They kept it steady. But here's what it means for your money and what you should do with this news. This is the first time since last July that the Fed hasn't cut interest rates, but this is something that everybody expected. And in the next meeting, they're expecting that they still will keep rates steady. What this means for people that are borrowers is that your interest rates aren't going to go lower. So if you want to consolidate and refinance and can get a lower rate, it may be a good time to do so. If you're a saver, that also means interest rates aren't going to go down, and so if you want to lock in a higher rate, now's the time to put it into a CD. Even though the Fed didn't do anything, right now is a good time to take stock of your own personal economy. The economy, while the Fed says is looking better than it did last year, we're really not in a very strong position. If that's the case for you, you have to take a look at your own job and your own job prospects and whether or not you run the risk of losing it. And if so, maybe it's time to boost up that emergency fund or perhaps start looking. I know a lot of folks in the last year, they took a job just to have a job. And now may be the time with the economy improving that perhaps people are going to start looking some more. If that's the case, you don't want to be 6 months behind everybody else who's already made a move and companies that have already started hiring. As with anything else, whether it's saving or looking for a job, you want to be ahead of the group, not behind. All right, make sure you share this with a friend you care about and follow me for more. Talk to you soon.
We have to talk about inflation, not because I want to upset you, but because the February Consumer Price Index report was just released today. I've been reporting on this and tracking this specific report every month for months. I'm not going to bullshit you. This one's brutal. We hit yet another 40-year high. The Bureau of Labor Statistics confirms the increase in prices of items we buy every single day are all up an average of almost 8% over last year. This 12-month increase is now the largest since January 1982. And for the last few months, we keep hitting these record highs. So how much more are we paying for stuff than we did in February of 2021? Overall, food up almost 8%, shelter up almost 5%. And you want to talk about the biggest contributor to this inflation? I have been telling you for months. It is energy, including gasoline. In February, it was up 38% over last year. Electricity and gas for your home up a combined 33%. I've been reporting for months gas prices were already high because of inflation and COVID-related supply chain and production problems. And now with this Russian aggression, things are likely going to get worse. You have to understand the numbers we're looking at today reflect what happened in February, which means when we get this very same report next month, we'll get a better idea of how these Russian sanctions are impacting our inflation in the month of March. And chances are that report is going to be worse than this one. So I know you're asking, how do we fix this? Well, one of the big ways I talked about in this video last month was the Federal Reserve. One of the most consequential tools it has to cool off the market, reducing inflation, is to raise interest rates, making the cost to borrow money more expensive and overall reducing the amount of money in circulation. Now, I talked all about how it works in that video. And the reason I bring it up now is because the Fed is scheduled to meet early next week and has indicated
our video will entirely be about the title that you just saw below there. That is why red states are leading the 2026 economic boom. That's our title, you know. In case it doesn't perform well, then we will have to change later on, which I don't know even which title we are going to replace it with, but let's hope this will work. It will work. So guys, in America in 2026, something very interesting is happening, by the way, and it's beautiful, of course, because everything that we've been hearing is bad news only. But now, in today's video, we are talking about something awesome. And of course, the headlines are arguing about Washington, Florida, Minnesota, and also when you talk about other cable news TV, it's stuck in the culture wars, you know, political instability. But there is a very good story that is unfolding on the ground, and that is happening one-on-one with an American. That is the coming up of new factories, packed job fairs, small towns booming again. Remember that all we used to talk about is that, you know, everything is going down. And of course, if you look at most of it, it's happening in the red states, those who voted red, by the way. So the big question here is why? Why the red states? So, guys, in 2026, the script has flipped. Companies are relocating, families are moving, and when it comes to the capital, it's flowing very, very, very fast from Texas to Florida, from Tennessee to Carolina. Sorry for the bad accent. I mean, the red states are not just growing, they are winning bigger and bigger. My good people, if you talk about the cost of living in so many red states, there is lower housing rates, housing cost, if not rates. Taxes are lower, and businesses are booming. So that means that something very powerful is happening, and it's awesome. You know, when you see a factory worker can afford a home, then it's good. If you see somebody that just did start up a business, survive within 2 years, I mean, it's awesome. If you see a family no longer needs 3 jobs just to stay afloat and afford basic needs, I mean, it's wonderful, right? So there are still some cities that prices or whose prices are still in the middle, some are high, and of course, yeah, when you talk about the red states, they're actually keeping theirs. And of course, if you talk about the stability and also growth, it's something else. So the red states are those states that voted for the current president of America. So as we speak, you know, the red states are doing something very simple. They are actually chasing jobs. They're not chasing headlines. And we have manufacturing plants coming up, logistics hubs coming up, energy projects, tech back offices, I mean technology, and that really helps their economy. These are not flashy businesses or they are not flashy investments, but they are very, very effective in the economy of these states. So instead of people asking, does this sound good on social media? One thing that they're different about, and one thing that they are asking is, will these job creations create 5,000 more jobs? I mean, will it employ 5,000 more people, something like that? And of course, people are ready to work. Businesses are ready to run, and of course the cycle will keep on going, and it's a great energy. So if you actually see most of the red states, they tend to produce energy, to use it affordably, and to build infrastructure very, very fast. And if you look at those three elements, they actually help in the growth of a country's or a state's economy. And if you talk about cheap, reliable power, or actually, yeah, if you talk about the two things, it's like the oxygen of an economy, cheap but reliable. It's the art of any economy in this world. So most companies, if you notice, they don't run on hashtags. Data centers, they don't run on speeches. So most of these when they run on electricity. I really hope that you're getting my point here. So 2026 energy is one of those items that has secured states, and you'll find that most of these states, which has been supported so much by the presence of energy, they are actually out there competing with everyone else. I mean, if they see you doing something, they'll come to you and sell their product to you, and why you should buy them actually. So speed is one thing that they have really invested in. You know, working in speed is something that people find very reliable. I mean, they don't have to follow you up each and every time. And permits in these red states, they actually They are easily available or readily available quickly. Constructions, they start very quickly. Regulations, I mean, even though they are strict here, they are actually clearer and easy to understand. So most of these red states, they offer predictability, and of course, even in corporate worlds, I mean, these people, they love working with predictable colleagues. I don't know how important that is, but yeah, I can also feel like it's happening in the those states that voted for Donald Trump. So, my good people, well, does in probably some of these states, like Ohio, those who voted blue, you will see like some of them moving to to the south, and they're actually buying their first homes. And if you look at nurses in Texas who probably did not need roommates at 35, and currently they can be at a position to help themselves out with this really planned out economy. So, guys, in 2026, the Donald Trump states are actually betting on work, they are betting on infrastructure, affordability, growth over image, and guess what? It's actually paying off, which is great. So, the real story of America's economy is not always in Washington. Understand that. Sometimes it's in places that nobody was really focusing them on or was really watching them, and it comes by surprise because at the moment you're talking about big wins and people did not expect big wins. So the real question is actually, guys, the real question is not about why the red state or why the red states are booming. The real question is who is going to learn from it and who will not. I'll see you in the next one. I love you to the moon and back.